All right, so I would love to now introduce our presenter for tonight, Barbara Hathaway, who is a former mathematician who discovered a love for literacy. She has 12 years experience as a volunteer tutor, ESL literacy specialist, program director, and tutor trainer. So I'd love to hand it to you now, Barbara, for tonight's easy guide to ESL small group instruction.
Okay, thank you, Maria. And thank you to everyone for joining us tonight. It is so nice to see some familiar faces and some new faces. So thanks for coming. If you're here because you are teaching a group, I hope I can provide you with some new ideas for engaging with your students. And if you're here because you're thinking about working with a group, I hope that what you see and hear today convinces you to give it a try, because working with a group is an amazing and rewarding experience. What makes it special? The students, the way they interact, the thoughts and ideas they share, the way they help one another and figure things out together, and the bond that forms between you and your students. So my goal tonight is to share some ideas that you can use to bring out the best in your group. And I'd like to start just to find out a little bit about you all. Give me a second to get my stuff here together. Okay, can everybody see okay? Everybody see this okay? Okay, so what I'd like you to do is I just want to find out who's working with groups, who's working one-on-one right now. So in the chat box, I'd like you to put 3 things, whether you work with a group or one-to-one. If you're using a textbook of some sort or not, and on a scale of 0 to 5, with 5 being very comfortable, tell me your comfort level teaching online. Okay, and I'm going to put this in the chat box as well for you. So group or one-to-one, book or no book, and how comfortable you are. Okay. So we have kind of a mix. Some one-to-one, some working with groups. Most people pretty comfortable working online. Okay. Okay, excellent. Okay, good. Well, that just gives me an idea of my audience here. Okay, so what are we going to talk about tonight? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about group management techniques, how to structure a lesson for a group, and then we're going to talk about some materials and activities that work especially well in groups. And we'll also talk a little bit about adapting some of our sort of old face-to-face activities to online versions. And I do want to add, I know it's a rather, it's a larger group, but I do want it to be interactive. So if you have a question, feel free to ask your questions, or if you don't feel comfortable speaking in front of the group, you can always put your question in the chat box. And Maria will be kind of checking that from time to time. We'll try to make sure we answer all your questions. Okay, well, first of all, some of you may know because you're already working with groups, but there are a lot of benefits of working with a group. First and foremost, we can serve more students. You're investing time planning a lesson and teaching, so why not help 4 or 5 students instead of just 1? The benefit to you as a tutor is that you are able to learn about different cultures, and your classes will be more interesting because your students will bring a variety of opinions, ideas, and life experiences to the conversation. One of the benefits to the students is that they can learn from one another as well as from you. And as I said, they help one another. And it's good for our students to meet and get to know people from different cultures because it broadens their perspective as it does ours. One of the really nice aspects of tutoring is the relationship that develops. The students develop a bond with you and they develop bonds with each other, which is really important for people who are living in a country far away from family and close friends.
Look, he's going around.
Okay, now there's a lot of benefits, but what about the challenges? So for those of you who are already working with a group, or maybe you're thinking about it, what do you think, or what do you know to be some challenges of working in a group? And Oriel, I might call on you because I know you have a lot of experience and can enlighten us a little bit.
A challenge could be that people are on slightly different levels.
Yeah, definitely.
Some people are shy, others more talkative.
Right. That's something we're going to talk about, how to manage that. Anything else you can think of?
Maybe some, there's differences in learning styles.
Yes.
Some of the people might be very comfortable, much more comfortable in a classroom situation, whereas in online, it seems for some remote and more difficult.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the challenges nowadays, right? That we're not face to face.
I find one of the challenges is some people show up one week and then don't show up another week. That's the biggest challenge for me. I wish they'd all show up.
I'd have to agree with that. I find that to be the most challenging thing, and we're going to talk a little bit about what to do about that too. Anybody else?
Some people might be
different technical skills. Different students have different technical skills. So.
And some do the homework and some don't do the homework.
I see a lot of people nodding their heads, so yes. These are definitely things that happen.
Yeah, I think I go along with I struggle sometimes with the technical skills. I think that most of our students are more computer savvy than we are, but not necessarily. And that's a stumbling block too. They're having difficulty with the language, and then they have to try to, if somebody doesn't help them, they have trouble with the computer, which is also which is frustrating. Because they want to learn English, and now they have to learn how to use a computer. Right.
Yes, I mean, I would say in the last year there have been, additional challenges to the usual ones that you guys have mentioned. Okay, so let's see if maybe we can sort out what to do about some of those things. Okay, so first of all, in terms of your role, it's a little different in a group, right? You're more of a facilitator. Okay, so part of that role is to impart knowledge, but part of that role is to encourage your students to share their knowledge, experiences, and information in a way that raises the level of learning for everyone in the group. One of the things that I think is important is to establish a contact procedure. It's challenging if some of your students are texting you, some of your students are emailing you, some people are calling you. So kind of decide at the beginning, what is going to be the best way for everybody to get in touch? And if you're not familiar with WhatsApp, I would definitely recommend using it. A lot of ESL students use it. It's free text and video calls, and they use it to communicate with their families back home. So most students are pretty familiar with it. And you can set up a group in WhatsApp, and I feel like the students are much more likely to respond to you when it's a WhatsApp text than an email or any other kind of text. Define expectations. We need to be clear with the students about the start time of class, how important attendance is, homework, and really make sure that the students understand this and that these things are expected of them. I think they're more likely to follow. Cell phone use, maybe have some guidelines about this. Of course, it's different face-to-face and online, right? Because online, you're really not quite sure what's going on sometimes with students. But face-to-face, sometimes, it helps to say, okay, it's okay to have your phone by you, but you need to keep it on vibrate. And, you're in class now, so we don't expect you to be on the phone unless it's an emergency. Promote collaboration. What do you think this means? How are you going to promote collaboration?
Have students work together as teams occasionally, 2 and 2 or 3 and 3, whatever.
Sure. Have your students work in pairs or even like smaller groups to get to know one another.
You could also encourage a period of the lesson for students to do more of the talking and sharing, and the teacher a little bit less.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's something you always want to keep in mind, that you're trying to limit the amount that you talk and really giving your students more of an opportunity to talk. Anything else?
You might get students to learn more about each other and each other's cultures and help them form bonds that way.
Yeah, definitely having some activities, some exercises where you're finding out about one another and students can see what they have in common. How about creating a welcoming environment? How can we do that? Don't be shy.
Be encouraging of each other rather than criticizing.
Absolutely. Students are not going to feel comfortable if they feel like when they come to class that they're going to be criticized for maybe not knowing things or not being able to do things well. Anything else?
Be interested in their life as well, and remember things from week to week to follow up.
Yes, absolutely. Find out about your students, really get to know them, ask questions about them.
Make sure that everybody has to participate. You want to hear everybody participate, no matter how small the group is or how large the group is.
Yes.
Everybody should have a chance to speak, and I think it's responsible of the teacher to call on everybody, even though as we know, some are weaker than others. Well, that's part of the job. You got to get them to work.
Exactly. So like Oriole was saying before, some students may be shy, they may sit back, but it's up to you as a facilitator to make sure that you're bringing everybody in the group, giving people a fair amount of time to speak and to share with the group.
And I know, if I may, I know in the classroom, it's a little bit easier to create a social gathering. Online, it's a little bit more difficult, but I think for the most part, the student should look forward to the class and also meeting their friends. It should be a little bit more of a little bit relaxed, social kind of thing, getting to know each other and learning English.
Yes, and we're going to talk about some activities that you can do with your students online, even that will sort of, you know, help them feel more comfortable and relaxed and like they're they're part of a class. Excuse me, even though they're separated. I have here stay flexible. You know, you guys have mentioned some things that happen with groups. Sometimes not all your students show up, maybe 2 out of 4 people show up, and you're like, wow, shoot, you know, should I go ahead with my lesson? But it helps not to get too rattled by that and to be prepared for some of those situations, which is why I included over prepare on the list. Because as we said, if maybe only a couple of your students show up and you don't want to go through your entire lesson that you've planned, you want to make sure that you bring extra pictures, reading passages, worksheets that will be still instructive for the students who show up, but maybe don't penalize the students who are absent and don't you know, interfere too much with the lesson that you will then bring back the following week when everybody's there.
I just wanted to interject. I have a one-on-one class with 2 students, 2 former students who I saw in the classroom. And the other day, my student asked me if I knew somebody that they have a class now with this other teacher, and they wanted to know if I knew her. And I said, I think so. And I said, can you describe her? And so that whole lesson that I had for the first 20 minutes went into deal with, how do you describe somebody? What do you mean? What do they look like? That whole thing, which in class we had done with this particular student before, like a year ago. But I think you have to be a little bit flexible to say, well, this is good. I'm glad you asked the question, but what do they look like? Are they tall? Are they short? How old are they? Could you describe them? And then we would talk about he has a son and a daughter. What do they look like? How old are they?
Yeah, exactly.
You have to be a little bit flexible. And then we went back to the regular lesson.
Great, thank you. Okay, so just some general guidelines for when you're working with a group. You know, when you're working one-on-one, you can sort of address your students' specific needs, but when you're working with a group, it really helps to center your lesson on a specific topic. So something that's of general interest to the group, like family, health, shopping, work. And these topics will help provide structure for your lesson and also help guide you in your choice of materials and activities. I think especially during these times of online classes, that pictures are very important because, you know, sometimes it's just harder for students to speak or understand one another, communicate online. So always great to have extra pictures around to promote understanding. You'll want to use drills, which are especially important for teaching grammar. And actually, these drills are a lot more fun when you have a group and you're kind of going around and having people take a turn saying things. You will want to have some dialogue activities to encourage real life conversation. And then with all of these listening and speaking skills, you will want to reinforce them with reading and writing activities. Now, it may take several weeks or even a month to explore a topic thoroughly, but I think the thing to keep in mind is that you want to teach vocabulary and grammar that relates to your topic, and then practice it in different ways, right? Through dialogue or reading or writing until the students become knowledgeable on the topic and comfortable speaking about it with others. And again, choose topics that provide practical, relevant information that students can use in their day-to-day lives. Now, just a couple of tips. Whether you're working face-to-face or online, some students arrive early and some will always be late. But I always feel like we should reward the eager students by starting on time. This is a cultural lesson, and students need to understand that here, people are expected to show up on time, right? Whether it's a doctor's appointment or your class. A good idea to take attendance. For some programs that receive funding from the Department of Labor, we're required to track attendance. Even if that's not the case for you, it's helpful for you to know who's attending on a regular basis and who isn't, so that you can follow up with the less regular students to see, what the issue is. Is it just a scheduling thing that we can sort out? If so, we like to do that rather than just have a student disappear. We mentioned the importance of over preparing because things don't always go as planned. And with a group, I think it's really important to make notes after your lesson. Keep a notebook of some sort and jot down what went well, what activities did the students like, what didn't they like, so that you can continually improve your lesson. And also, I like to check off what we did and what we didn't do, so I know what we're going to carry forward into the next lesson. Okay. One of the things that became apparent when we transitioned to small group instruction is how much it helps tutors to have a book, right? Because books provide structure in terms of the content to present and the order in which to present it. Some of you may be using books. Actually, some of you did tell me you're using books. Some of you are maybe developing your own material. If your program doesn't provide you with books, you may want to consider getting yourself one, just to provide that structure to your lessons. And you can purchase a new copy of most books for about $25 and get a used copy for even less. There are a lot of good adult ESL textbooks to choose from. Most are organized around topics, as I mentioned, and each unit covers a different topic and provides skills practice in listening, speaking, reading, and writing, which is what you really want. These books provide a nice foundation for teaching a group, although you'll still want to supplement with materials and activities like we're going to talk about today. Tonight, actually.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to, one of the things what we've been doing is I have a more advanced group and we read articles, newspaper articles, and I send those articles to them at the beginning of the week with the reminder of the log on. So they can read it ahead of time if they want, and then we read and discuss them. So we don't have books, but we've been using like Newsela.
Yeah, and actually that's great. It's a great idea, and we're going to, I'm going to show you some sites and things later on that you can use that are like that. In Literacy New Jersey, we have been gravitating towards the Ventures books, mostly because they're the most economical for students to purchase. And they also offer sort of an ebook so that you can share pages from the book online. Okay, and I don't know if all of you have seen this before. This is a model for lesson planning. It was developed by Pro Literacy. And I wanted to share this with you because I think it really represents a nice straightforward method for planning a lesson. Like some of you, I was not a teacher by trade. And so I find this graphic to be very helpful in putting together a lesson. Now, it's not necessarily a representation of how your lesson will unfold, because there is some overlap in things, like in this lesson wheel, there's a pronunciation segment, but generally pronunciation is something you're going to work on while you're having conversation, right? And reading and writing sometimes kind of blend in together. But in terms of when you're thinking about what you want to work on with your students, it's great for that sort of planning. Okay. So remember, we said that not all your students will show up at the same time. So it's helpful to have a warm-up activity that you can use while you're waiting for students to arrive. And I like to use pictures to introduce the day's topic. And what I do is I ask students to write a few sentences about what they see in the picture. They can write whatever they want. They can tell a story about it, or they can just describe the picture. And then I have the students, when everybody arrives, I have the students read what they wrote, and it's always very interesting. And so I asked some of you to do this while we were waiting. So would someone like to share what they wrote?
Sure. I wrote, there is an ESL class at the library.
That's it.
Oh, I've got 3, but I figured you'd want 1 per person.
Oh, no. Read me your story.
Oh,
Sorry,
it's not really a
Maria.
story. The students are watching the tutor write on the whiteboard. The tutor is writing sentences. I kept it very simple.
Perfect. No, that's great. Anybody else who was here early who?
I wrote that there is an ESL class taking place at the library. The teacher is writing on the flip chart and the students are very engaged with their eyes looking intently at what she is writing.
Okay, great. Good description. Anybody else?
I have something.
Mhm.
The 8 students are learning in a library setting. The teacher is using an easel with a flip chart. I think it is an ESL class.
Okay, good. One more? Anybody else that did this? Don't be shy. No, we have somebody else? Okay, all right. So, so as you can see, it's an exercise where, people kind of write what they want, and people wrote similar things, but not exactly the same thing. Okay, so so it's a nice flexible exercise. Why do you think I chose this picture?
It's something they're familiar with.
Yes, it's something you're familiar with. Since you are my students, so to speak, or the audience tonight. Anything else?
We have the vocabulary to use to describe this.
Exactly. You have vocabulary for this.
For some students we've only done online teaching, it will give them an idea, hopefully in the future, what a regular class looks like.
Yes, good point. This is a kind of an old-fashioned picture now, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
What's the library?
But I did choose it because I knew that you have background knowledge, right? You have experience here that you could bring to the conversation. And that is how you are going to choose pictures for your students as well. So one of the things that I like about this exercise is that, students are very good about filling in the blanks in workbooks or worksheets, but this more open-ended type of exercise will give you a better idea of their actual writing ability. The other good things about it, low prep, right? All you have to do is really find a picture that's related to your topic. And for the students, it's nice because there's no right or wrong. They can just write whatever they want about it.
Question, do you do this for every class? And if so, how long? 5, 10, 15 minutes?
I use this very often in my class, as I said, to introduce a topic. So maybe we work on a topic for 2 or 3 weeks. So I might use a picture, every 3 weeks. I might use a different kind of warm-up activity. We're going to talk about some of them as we go along. And as I mentioned, so this is like a bonus activity for the early birds. And, you know, if people come later, you can just ask them to tell you a story instead of writing it down, or, you know, maybe it's just something they don't do. It doesn't really penalize them because you're going to be doing other things to introduce your topic as well. Now, when you're choosing pictures, make sure that you're including things that are really relevant to your students, that tap into their background knowledge, or relate to real life situations that they are likely to encounter. Okay. So now let's say all your students have arrived and you again want to introduce your topic. Our topic tonight is going to be work. And, you know, while you could start by asking your students to, okay, tell me all the jobs you know, it's kind of nice to add some structure to the activity. And so you can set it up as like an A to Z exercise. And so I'd like to do this with you guys. Maybe some of you have seen something like this before, but you can be more creative in the jobs you come up with. Okay, can everybody see this? This is my occupations A to Z, and what I want you to do is just call out whatever job you know that starts with the letters. We'll start with, you can see the letter A. I started with architect, but how about the letter B?
Baker. Baker.
Okay, C.
Cook.
Construction.
D.
Dentist, doctor.
Dog walker.
I was thinking dog walker.
Yeah, good. E.
Electrician.
Engineer.
Oh boy, okay. I heard a whole lot of things. I'm just gonna pick one of them, okay? F.
Firefighter.
Farmer.
Farmer, all right. G.
Gas
Gardener.
attendant.
Gas attendant. That's one I haven't heard before. Okay, good. H.
Housekeeper.
I.
Innkeeper.
Innkeeper. Oh, that's a new one too. Good. J.
Juggler.
Say that again?
A juggler.
Juggler. Juggler.
The circus is
paid?
about.
Is that a paid position? Okay.
Professional.
It's a professional gig worker.
A professional. You're right. You're right. How about K?
Knitter.
Karaoke
Knitter.
singer.
Oh, sorry. What was the second one?
Karaoke singer.
Karaoke singer.
Profession,
Okay.
another likely profession.
Good. L.
Librarian.
Lawyer.
Librarian. All right. I think I like librarian. M.
Mechanic.
For literacy people.
Mechanic.
Sorry?
Manager.
Mechanic.
Mechanic. Ah, okay. Good. N.
Nurse.
Okay, good. Anything else you can think of for N? Most people say nurse.
Neurologist.
A neurologist. Okay, that's good too. How about O?
Ophthalmologist.
Yeah, obstetrician.
Officer.
People always say this and I can't spell it. What else did we have?
Oceanographer.
P.
Operator.
Ocean. All right, oceanographer.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, P.
Painter.
Photographer.
Did
Police
somebody
officer.
say paleontologist?
Yes.
Now you gotta spell it. Now you gotta spell it.
I know, this
There you
is
go.
challenging.
That's a really old one.
Okay, here's a tough one. Q.
Queen.
Queen. Okay,
Yeah, that's
queen or
not-
quilter?
Quilter, yeah.
Quartermaster.
Quarterback.
Quarter, all right, quartermaster.
Whack.
I like that. That's new. Okay,
What
R.
is that?
I don't know.
They keep track of equipment.
Rustler.
Right, exactly.
Rustler starts with
Rustler.
Car driver. Race car
Rustler.
driver.
Okay, Rustler.
Ru- Rustler like this?
Mhm.
Are you-
Yes, that's it.
Okay, all
Mhm.
right.
Gonna take
See,
some
now,
time.
if this was your class, we might have to look some of these things up. Okay. S,
Scientist.
Surgeon.
scientist. Okay, T,
Teacher.
of course. U,
Urologist.
urologist and undertaker. Okay. Those are
Oh
the
my
two
God.
that those are the only
Veterinarian.
two I've heard.
Underwear
Urologist and
model.
undertaker. Is there something else?
Underwear model.
Another great profession.
Okay, that's a good one. How about V?
Virologist.
Violinist.
But did somebody say a virologist?
Yes.
No, I said,
Okay, I'm gonna put that virologist like that.
I said
Yeah, I think that's
violinist.
timely. I think that's timely. Mhm.
True.
Okay, W.
Wait,
Writer.
Wrestler.
Winemaker. Winemaker.
Winemaker. All right, I like that. I like that. A lot of wine
Timely
during
also.
COVID here. X.
X-ray technician.
X-ray tech.
Okay, X-ray tech. And Y?
Yodeler.
Yeah.
That's a popular one too.
Yodeler.
Mhm.
Yoga
Yodeler.
instructor.
Or yoga instructor. Mhm. How about Z?
Zookeeper.
Zoologist.
Okay, all right, zookeeper. Good. All right, excellent.
Barbara, we have a question
Yes.
in the chat from Pooja wondering if this activity can be used for all levels.
Yes, I'm going to, yes, what do I want to say about that? You can. I've actually done this with beginner students. It's a little different. This is when we were still face-to-face, but I had some picture dictionaries that I made available to them, and they were kind of working in little groups, and they were finding that we did food. So they were looking in the books and they were finding things that started with the letters, and then they went up to the board and wrote on it. So you can, even for low-level students, you can work it that way.
Thank you.
And actually in a group, you'd be surprised, like, maybe everybody knows a few words, but they can usually fill in more than you think. And then the idea would be, okay, this is what we know. And then we're going to see what we learned during the rest of the lesson, go back at the end of the lesson as a wrap up and fill in, see if we can fill in some more blanks. And then whatever you can't fill in, then that's the homework. Okay, go home and find some jobs or food or whatever that start with these letters. So the other nice thing about this is, again, it's pretty low prep. I think that's important when we're talking about ideas for lesson planning. You can have students work individually, or you can pair them up or have them work in small groups. I think you'll see that having the students work together, they can come up with more answers. And then we can kind of segue into some simple grammar. Later on in the lesson, maybe we're going to talk about, well, what does the dentist do? A dentist fixes teeth. Or what kind of job skills does a dentist need? Okay, so we can sort of build off of this activity. I think I want to say something. And the other thing that's really nice about it is that it can be expanded. I can get my slides to work again. Okay, it can actually be modified depending on what your topic is, right? Okay, our topic was work, but we could do food. What else could we do? What else would be a topic that would work well?
Cities, names.
Cities,
Places.
places.
Activities that they do on vacation, for example.
Sports.
Clothing.
Clothing. Yes.
Colors.
Yeah. So again, I think it's a good activity because you can use it in a lot of different ways. And it was fun. And it's always good to have fun during your lessons. Okay, so just, so you could use your Zoom whiteboard to do this if you wanted to, although I haven't had great success with the whiteboard. I did it. I set this up in a Word document, which you could do and share with your students. Okay, so we did it like this. Okay. Let's see where I'm at here. Sorry. Okay, so now we've introduced our topic and some new vocabulary, right? And the next step would be to incorporate that new vocabulary into sentences using some specific grammar points that you decide are useful for your students. If you are making use of a book, a textbook, the unit usually starts with a nice picture like this, and it actually gives you a list of vocabulary words that you can focus on and some suggested grammar points. And this is a great place to work in some of those repetition drills that you learned about in training. So, you know, in using this picture, is he a waiter? Is she a cashier? Is he an electrician or a construction worker? You know, what is his job? Oh, his job is electrician. What is her job, right? And you can ask questions and have the students answer sort of together, or you can go around, round robin, and ask questions. So the nice thing about that kind of activity in a group is that there's a lot of repetition, which is really important for learning, but one student is not repeating the same thing over 20 times. Right? So the students are getting their opportunity to speak, but then they're also listening to what the other students are saying, and they're kind of picking up on the grammar like that. Now, if you're not using a book, that's okay. You just find your own pictures to use for the lesson. Like the pictures you see here with Google, it's fairly easy to find pictures that relate to your topic and can generate conversation with the students. I chose these pictures because these are some of the jobs that my students have had. I had a couple of students who worked at the airport. One was a home health aide. One worked in cafeteria. My students were a little higher level, so the drills that I would use with them would be a little, have a little bit more complicated structure to them. So with advanced students, you might be talking about the advantages and disadvantages of a job. So it might be, what is an advantage of being a home health aide? Or what is an advantage of being an airport worker? And the student would have to say, one advantage is, right? In any case, repetition drills are a great tool for teaching your students grammar, and they can be fun, but really for a limited amount of time. So maybe 10 or 15 minutes you might spend doing this, and then you want to move on to other activities that provide additional opportunities to practice. Okay, so for practicing grammar, you might want to consider, if you're working with lower level students, using word cards. So if you look on the left, you see these sentences: we are cooks, I am nurse, he is electrician. What I do with those is I create that in Word using, the vocabulary and grammar that relates to our topic. And then I cut all the sentences up into just single words. And I put them all in an envelope, and I would give them to the students, and they would have to move the pieces of paper around to form complete sentences, right? This is when we're face to face, okay? We're going to talk about online in a minute. If your students are higher level, you might use scrambled sentences instead. Okay, it's the same idea, but it's many less pieces of paper. And again, you can have your students work individually on this, or you can have them work in pairs, which is nice because then they have to talk to one another while they're working on the activity. Either way, they're kind of fun. They're like puzzles, okay? And the students enjoy them. But now, how are we going to do this online? Okay, well, one possibility is that you can put the scrambled sentences on a slide like this or in a Word document, and then the students would use a piece of paper and pencil and, looking at what you have displayed, and they would work out the sentences. You'll see here, these are the more like the word cards are for lower level students. So I added a couple of hints by, capitalizing some words. So that's going to be the first word in the sentence. And then the words are kind of color coded. So this exercise is self-correcting because each sentence has one word of each color. But this doesn't offer that kinetic element that I was talking about, moving the pieces of paper around. Okay, so for that, we could use a Jamboard. A Jamboard is a Google tool that has many uses, but for our purposes, you can think of it as a whiteboard with sticky notes. And you would create the sticky notes and put them on the whiteboard sort of randomly. You can see what I did here. And then share the Jamboard with your students by putting a link in the chat box, which I'm going to do in a minute for you. Then the students are going to be able to manipulate the sticky notes to create proper sentences. And again, it's set up so that the sentences have one word of each color. All right, shall we try it?
Yes.
All right, let's see how this works. Oops, whoop, I did the wrong thing, sorry. No, maybe I can. Sorry, let me stop that for a minute. Dear, dear, dear. I didn't do that the right way. Okay, let's try this again.
So Barbara, quick question.
Yep.
With the Jamboard, does each student get their own individual Jamboard, or are they all working on the same one?
They're going to come to the site. My problem is I thought I could get to this site by...
Barbara, I think I just got it in there. If you all go to the chat,
Okay, thank you, Maria. I thought it would work if that I could cut and paste it from the slide, but I guess not. Okay. So it's in the chat box, Maria?
It should be. Is everyone able to access it?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh boy. Okay. Oops. All right. So what I wanted to say was, so when I was thinking about doing this with you, I realized, oh my gosh, there's going to be so many people here. This is going to become a big mess very quickly. But as you can see, the way it would work is you would move the sticky notes around to form sentences. And I see that some of you have got this going, and that's great. I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to make their own sticky note in a minute, but I'll let you guys. Okay, good. He's a busboy. She's a cashier, or she's a nurse. Okay, she's a nurse. I am an electrician. We are cooks. Good. Oh boy. Okay, hold up. You guys are going to have the PowerPoint, and if you want, after the talk, you can unscramble the sentences. Okay, hold on for just a second because I want to show you a couple other things. So that was the word cards that you would use for the lower level students. Okay, now if you go to, and I don't know, can you see that I've switched the screen, or Maria, can you see, does the screen look different, or does everybody have to go to page 2?
I'm sorry, do you mean the screen you're sharing or?
Yeah.
I think we have to go to page 2.
Okay,
It
go to
worked for
page
me
2.
anyway.
Go to page 2, and do you see, don't touch anything. Do you see that there are
Yes.
4 sentences? These are the scrambled sentences, okay?
How does
And so
one go to
each
page
student-
2?
It's at the top. There's
So
an arrow.
at the top, there's you see like a rectangle, and it says 1 of 7, 2 of 7, 3 of 7. So go to
In the
2,
top center.
and you should see 4 sentences. The top one is in pink, the second one is in green, the next one's in yellow, and then there's one in orange. Don't
No
touch.
touching.
Okay, I hope everybody can see that.
Yes.
What I want you to do is go to page 3, okay? Page 3 should be blank.
Yes.
Okay,
Says occupation.
now I want, good. Now I want you to go on the left-hand side, you'll see like a little toolbar, and there's a sticky note. It's 1, 2, 3, the 4th icon down, sticky note. All right, see if you can click on the sticky note, write an occupation on it, and save it, and we'll see if it shows up on the board. Good, 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 good. Excellent. Okay, I think, and I would say just do 1, all right? Because I want to just make sure that everybody or quite a few people have figured out how to do this. Okay. Great, great. So, before we did that exercise verbally, right? I would ask the students to tell me names of jobs, and I might write them down. Because at the beginning, I don't want them to worry about spelling, and they might know something, but they don't know how to spell it, so they won't say it. So it was just an oral exercise, but you can come back later on and do this as a written exercise as well. Okay, great. And I want you to just, if you wouldn't mind, go 1 more page to page 4. And again, I don't really need you to do anything on this page. We're going to talk about this activity next, when we're going to talk about it as an oral activity, but I also want you to see that it could be a written activity. It's titled What I Buy at the Grocery Store. You guys see this?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I just want you to take a look at that so you keep it in your mind for later. All right. Let's see. Okay, now can everybody see my screen again with my Jamboard?
Yes.
We're back to, okay, good. Back to where we were. Okay.
Ooh.
Okay, so now this is one of my favorite activities to use with groups. It's essentially a speaking activity, as I said, but you can use it for writing practice later on, but it's kind of fun to do it verbally first. And like some of the other activities I showed you, it can be adapted to a variety of topics. Okay, but I call this my always, sometimes, never activity. And basically we're going to talk about what we buy at the grocery store. So you can see that I always buy milk at the grocery store. I usually buy salmon. Sometimes I buy shrimp, occasionally or once in a while. I buy bread. I never buy olives. Okay, so I'm just going to call on Francesca. Tell me something you always buy at the grocery store.
Yogurt.
Okay, and I want you to give me a complete sentence, just like I would ask my
I always
students.
buy yogurt at the grocery store.
Okay, perfect. Brenda, what is something you usually buy at the grocery store? Do we have Brenda with us? No? Joanne? Just unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
I usually buy butter at the grocery store.
Okay, Great. And Maria, what's something you sometimes buy at the grocery store?
See, I sometimes buy olives at the grocery store.
Okay. And Victoria, what's something you occasionally buy at the grocery store? I think you're unmuted. Mhm.
Do you want us to use the choices that are on the board?
No, I want you
Oh,
to
okay.
tell me what is
Okay.
something you occasionally buy at the grocery
gum.
store. Okay, give me a complete sentence.
Oh, I occasionally buy gum at the grocery store.
Okay, great. And let's see, I can't see everybody here. Marguerite, are you with us, Marguerite? I need you to unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Okay.
Okay, and tell me something you never buy at the grocery store.
Clams. I
Okay,
never
and give
buy
me a
clams.
complete. Okay, good. Okay, and one more. Laura, tell me something you always buy at the grocery store.
I always buy olives.
I see there's a difference of taste here in this group. Okay, all right, great. So again, there's repetition of grammar, but each student is getting the opportunity to say something slightly different, right? And it's kind of fun because we find out what people like to buy or don't like to buy and eat. And the students learn a lot of vocabulary. So now, how could we use this same format to talk about different things? What else could we talk about using this always, sometimes, never grammatical structure?
What I like to do after work or school.
Right, what I like to do after work.
Daily routines.
Right, exactly. It's exactly what I used with my students after we did this. What do you do on the weekend? What do you wear to work? What do you have for breakfast? Okay, so
Barbara, can I
again,
ask you a technical question
sure.
about this? I'm a little bit confused. So can you set up the I assume you set up the Jamboard ahead of time, and you save it someplace, or you just leave it open when you start the class? And is there a way to save it to use again for a later class or to modify for a different subject?
You're doing it in Google, and so it saves. It saves itself.
You can save it. You can save it actually. There's a
You can save it on your
save.
computer.
Yeah.
And then just pull it up when you need it.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay. Any questions about any of this? I'm sorry, I haven't really been monitoring the chat box. Maria, is there anything that we should be?
I'm not sure how to get out of this, Barb.
Pooja had asked a good question about using Jamboards while on Zoom, and I just explained that you can either share your screen while you're using it if you're just wanting to showcase it to your students, or alternatively, you can all hop into the Jamboard document and leave your Zoom on just for the audio purposes while you all kind of navigate the Jamboard together like we just did.
So
Okay,
Barbara, I have a question. It's Jane. A lot of my students use phones. So how do you do you ever use Jamboards and that kind of stuff on phones, or does that kind of really limit?
It always amazes me that students can do pretty much anything on their phone. I think as long as I'm thinking what I would do is put the link in WhatsApp and they would click on it just like you guys clicked on the link in the chat box.
Okay, great.
How much they'd be able to do on a very small screen, it's maybe more limited.
Yeah. And excuse me, I'm Millie. They usually have a problem reading when they're using their iPhones because the screen is so small, so they are not able to do everything on the phone. That's what I find with some of my students. When they were using the iPhone, they were not able to do a lot of things.
Right. And so it is important to have, activities where really you're asking questions and they can answer and not necessarily have to be reading something.
Right.
Good point. Okay, I want to move along here. Okay, so dialogue. Now, this is also one of my favorite group activities. Using pictures like this, you can help your students write and practice conversation that will help them prepare for real life encounters with people in an assortment of situations. Even for beginners, dialogue is useful. You will need to craft the dialogue for them, and it will be more of a memorization exercise, but still it gives the students a chance to practice speaking with others. How does this work online? Well, you will assign your students to breakout rooms to work on their dialogue and then bring them back and have them practice in front of the group. And we're going to do that in a minute so you can see how it works. Enacting the dialogue in front of their classmates is a really important piece of this exercise, because dialogue is as close as you can get to real life conversation without it being real life. So you can have your students practice and improve their grammar and pronunciation in the safe setting of your class so that they feel confident and prepared for the time when that real life situation presents itself. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Here's our scenario. The employee is asking for a raise. And you're going to write a dialogue to help your student prepare. It'll be 6 to 8 lines using real life English, and I want you to be prepared to share your dialogue with the group. We're going to do this by going into breakout rooms, and you will work with a partner, write down the dialogue that addresses the situation. So you'll need a pencil and paper or some other device to record your dialogue. Keep in mind the dialogue is for ESL students. They don't have a great command of the language, so try to keep your sentences short and your language simple. I'll give you about 5 minutes to write the dialogue, and then you'll be notified that the breakout room is ending, and you'll have about 60 seconds from that point to wrap up before you are brought back to the group. When you return, I'll ask some people, to present their dialogue. 2 people to present their dialogue. What questions can I answer before we do this? Everybody have so it's employee asking for a raise. Okay, let's. Okay, do we have pretty much everybody back?
We did a good one. Okay. Nice.
Okay, good. Okay, how was that?
It was fun.
It always amazes me how that works. Okay, so what I'd like is maybe for 2 or 3 pairs to demonstrate their dialogue or enact their dialogue for us. Anybody want to volunteer? And apologies to the people that this didn't work out. I've never had that happen before, but I would say it's probably the larger group that there's stuff going on. Maria, did you work with somebody?
I did, sure. Let me pull up our Google.
Ours is good.
All right. And Kim, do you want to be the employee or the employer?
I'll be the employee.
Perfect.
Hello, how is your day going?
It's going well, thank you. How can I help you?
I was hoping to speak with you about my salary.
Sure, no problem. What would you like to discuss?
As you know, I've been here for a whole year and I've helped us get more customers. Because of this, I'm hoping that you'll consider giving me a raise.
You know what? I agree. Thank you for your hard work. I think we can make that happen.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Okay.
That's good too.
Excellent, excellent.
Easy.
I'm writing that down.
Definitely for higher level students, right, in the complexity of the sentences. But yeah, they got right to the heart of the issue. Good, good. Anybody else? Oreo, you want to?
Sure, Rich, are you there?
Yeah, I apologize. My video seems to have cut out. I can't get it back, but I am here in audio form.
Okay, we can listen.
All right. Hey, boss, how are you?
I'm fine, Rich. How can I help you?
I wanted to ask you about a raise.
Oh, well, I'm a little busy right now. Can we talk at 3 o'clock?
Sure, that works for me.
Okay, so now it's 3 o'clock. So Jim, what did you have in, Rich, what did you have in mind?
So I've been working here for a year, and I think I've been doing a good job.
Yes, that's true.
I was hoping that I could get a raise.
Well, I'll have to talk to my boss about that. Can we get back together in about a week?
Okay, sounds good. I look forward to it.
Okay, I'll reach out to you in a week.
Thanks.
Okay, okay. A lot to that, right? And some good lessons in there that, you know, you may not be able to talk to your boss right away when you want to. And then you may not get an answer back right when you want to too. So there was a couple of things raised in that dialogue that'd be helpful for students. Great, one more? Marilyn?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry. So based on the conversation, the role play that just happened, what would be the level of the students in this particular one?
Oh, more advanced, more advanced.
Sorry, I'm a new tutor, Bob, so I'm just getting that out of the way.
Yes, no, it's a good question. It's a good question. Actually, did anybody write a dialogue that's really, you know, more for a lower level student? Short sentences and, yeah, does somebody want to share? Gail, you're nodding, are you nodding your head? You need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, we made shorter sentences, thinking it was slower, but didn't really do a dialogue. So we have to.
I could fake it. You could ask.
Want to fake the dialogue?
Improvise. Improvise.
Okay, improvise. Yeah, that's good.
We'll
You have to do that as a
improvise.
tutor.
So
Okay, go
Laura,
ahead.
you want to be the employer?
Yeah, okay, I'll try. Yeah.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Jones.
Hi, George.
Do you have a few minutes for me to talk with you?
Sure, what's up?
I've been working very hard for you. I like working here, but I need to make more money.
Don't we all need to? I don't know what to say. Don't we all need to make more money? I feel your pain. No, I don't know what I would say.
I thought she was going to say, cry me a river.
Could you please think about this for me?
Of course. I would need to have a few, I would need to have some time to think about it and speak to my management.
Thank you very much for thinking about me.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for speaking with me.
Very nice.
Okay, yes, very nice. But again, still, you know, for a little higher level. I guess lower level, we'd be thinking more like, you know, can I speak to you, please? What is the issue? I need
more money.
I need more money. How much more?
And I think something to consider is the cultural aspects of asking for a raise. Some of these people are not in a position, they just want to keep their job, let alone get a raise.
That's a whole different issue. What we're really talking about here is just trying to get some sentences together for the student to practice, to sort of start moving towards real life conversation. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking off the top of my head, you wouldn't say, you know, I need more money, but But that's what the students might come up with if you give them this
Yeah,
activity. That's what they'll say. And then you'll have a conversation about that.
How can you
wouldn't
frame
start
that
like
differently? How can
Yes.
you say, I want more money, but say it in a different way?
Right. So in any case, I think dialogue is really, really a great activity. It's a lot of fun. If you're not in the habit of using it, I would really recommend that you try it. It's a great learning tool. And the students actually, they like to ham it up a little bit in front of their classmates. So it's definitely, it can be very entertaining. Okay, back to business here. I need to move along. Now, what are we? Okay, I don't even know where we are here. No, we weren't there. Sorry. Oh boy, lost my place. Okay. Okay. All right. And well, when you're the host, you have the option to do the breakout rooms. So you'll see that at the bottom of your screen. It'll be one of the icons, and you say how many breakout rooms you want to create, and then you can have people automatically assigned. That's what I did tonight. So, okay. So Google has made life a lot easier for tutors. And here's a good example. If you want a picture of a waitress with unhappy customers, you just Google waitress with unhappy customers. And then your picture comes up, and that's what you can use, to start your conversation with the students. These pictures highlight situations that students might encounter in real life and would be a great starting point for developing conversation. One other activity I want to mention, infogrids. This is an interactive activity that allows you to find out information about your students, and it allows students to find out information about each other. So for example, on the right is a simple infogrid that you could use with beginner students. And if you were face-to-face, you would have them go around to each of their classmates and ask them their name, what country they're from, and what their job is. Right? On the left, something for a little higher level students, I developed this for my students because we were talking about job skills, and I wanted them to think about what skills were required for different jobs. Online, I'm not sure that you can really do, well, I guess you could use breakout rooms for this, right? That might be a little complicated, might be a better exercise to do when we're back to face-to-face. But the exercise on the left, you could certainly, show your students this picture and have them talk about it and do it as a group. But the nice thing about it is that when they're working collaboratively, they come up with more answers to things, they have more ideas. So that's what makes it, a richer exercise. And then, English is filled with a lot of expressions and idioms. Don't make the mistake I did of bringing in like a list of 25 idioms and then starting to go through them one by one with your students. That doesn't really help them at all. But just try and pick a couple, choose a couple based on your topic. And here, our topic was work, so I chose some that went along with work. A work in progress, work like a dog, work for peanuts. If you can, find some pictures to go along because it'll make it easier to explain these crazy expressions to students. Okay,
Barb?
now.
Barb?
Yeah.
2 summers ago, I have all women and mostly younger mothers. When we were just spending some time on expressions and idioms, and we read Amelia Bedelia.
Okay.
Which is all idioms and her misunderstanding of idioms and expressions. And it was nice. It was sort of a light break, but they learned a lot because a lot of the expressions in the Amelia Bedelia books are fairly common, you know, like dust the furniture, where everyone understands that to mean clean the dust off the furniture. But she was thinking like, you know, powder the donuts. You put powder on the donuts, so dust the furniture must mean put dust on the furniture. And it was just silly little things that my students could relate to, and they also could relate to that in terms of reading that kind of book to their kids.
Thank you. I'm not familiar with it, but it sounds like it worth looking into for that.
They're very fun. Yeah, Amelia Bedelia.
Okay. Okay, I really want to squeeze this in tonight, the group language experience story, because this is also a really great activity to do with a group. You may remember from training that the language experience story is a written expression of the student's own words on a topic of interest to them that's recorded by the tutor. And it's an especially effective tool because the ideas and words for the story are coming directly from the students, which means it's going to be more engaging for them. And then you as the tutor can use the language experience story to address vocabulary and grammar issues that come up in the telling of the story. The key is to start with a picture that you know resonates with your students, because you want to be able to tap into their personal experience to generate ideas for the story. And it also helps if you have an objective. So for example, when I've done this with my students, I have used it to practice the W words, right? Who, what, where, when, why. So as the students create the story, they have to answer those questions. They have to come up with answers to those questions. Okay. How do we do this? Okay, you use pictures to generate the story. You will go around to each of your students and have them contribute a sentence or two. You will write down the students' sentences verbatim with all the mistakes and errors that they make. Then you type up a first draft for the students to review and edit. And then once they've made all of their changes and you add your own suggestions for changes, then you prepare a final edited version for the students to read, which is always kind of fun because then it's their story. And then, you know, based on how the story gets put together and the mistakes that you find, you'll use the story to address those vocabulary and grammar errors in future lessons. Okay, and just for fun, because we always have to have some fun in our lessons, I want to do one with you. Make sure I got my magic marker here. Okay, and I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way, which is I'm going to write it down the way we would if we were in person. So here's the picture that I'm using. It had been a busy day at work, and we are also going to answer the W word. So as we're telling the story, I want you to kind of throw in who these people are, what they're doing, where they are, okay? And make it fun, okay? It can be silly. So, so whenever you're ready, just start. I'm going to put here, it was a busy day at work. And what happened?
A dog broke in and Marie had to catch her.
Dog broke in. And Marie had to catch her. Uh-huh. And what happened? And I would like different people to add to the story, okay? What happened after the dog broke in?
Everyone chased after the dog.
Now, let me just ask you something, because do you guys see this picture?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it's a Zoom picture, right?
No.
Does everybody get that? It's a Zoom picture?
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I don't understand what you mean.
Yeah, me neither.
It's a Zoom screen.
Yeah, it's a Zoom screen. So
It's
there's
a
not
Zoom.
people, not like people were together.
Right.
They're gathering together on Zoom.
Right.
Oh, I see.
They're having a drink to relax after work.
Okay. Good. They're having a drink to relax.
It's a happy hour.
Okay, okay.
With the dog.
After they caught the dog.
Yeah, they're celebrating.
Okay, so they were at happy hour. After catching the dog. And then what? And what happened during happy hour?
Everyone had a drink.
Okay.
Some people
Wanted a martini, but they
had a-
didn't have any
had a-
alcohol.
someone brought their baby.
Okay, wait, all right, but I want to introduce this other element first. Some people wanted a martini and what?
They didn't have any olives. Somebody bought them all at the store.
Talk about coming back around to things.
Barb, you're never gonna live that down. And some people only had coffee.
Because of COVID, they had to celebrate alone.
Okay, okay, all right. Some people had coffee.
They're all using fake backgrounds.
Why? Why?
Because nothing is open. It's a shutdown. They're really at home.
Right. Yes, I realize that. I was thinking, I was trying to see if maybe we had some creative reason for why they were using fake background.
Because their
Because of
houses are
COVID.
dirty.
Because they're all wearing pajamas.
And they're all wearing pajamas. Okay, good.
Pajama tops.
And the kids are screaming.
While
And the
they're
dog
getting
is
their
and the
drink.
dog is barking.
Okay, oh my goodness. All right, well, you get the idea.
That was some story. I ran out of paper. Anyway, you get this is really how it goes with your student. Now, this is an activity for, I would say, low intermediate students and above. Okay, I wouldn't try, obviously students have to have some conversational skills. But it's fun and they come up with the craziest stuff. Actually, the students told me about this picture. I showed them this picture. They said, this is a group of restaurant owners and they were all getting together to talk about what they were going to do.
Oh,
because
wow.
of the new COVID regulations.
Wow. Amazing.
Right?
Pretty good.
That's what they came up with.
Better than the story we had.
Better than us.
A lot better.
Anyway, there's a lot of benefits to this kind of activity, but obviously it engages, right? You guys were all into it because everybody was thinking about what they were going to say, and people have different background knowledge. It's fun and creative. Obviously, you don't have any grammar issues, but you see with your students that there will be things that you'll want to address. Okay, so just one last thing, I think, on if you remember back to our pie chart, there was reading and writing, which you can do with groups. In general, I would have an article like the one you see on the right here, and I would break it down into maybe a couple of sentences, and we would just go around, and each student reads a little piece of the story. What I'm trying right now with my students is connecting the words in the story with pictures. So they would read a passage and then have to decide which picture goes with that passage. Or the other thing that you can do is start with the picture and then have the students go and read the story and see if they can figure out which part of the story goes with the pictures. So I got this story from a site called EL Civics, which I really recommend. They have a lot of stories about real life situations. In this case, it's about Van, who wants to apply for a promotion, but he's not sure how his coworkers will feel about reporting to him. So there's usually some kind of a problem that has to be resolved. And, so this kind of generates conversation with the students about, well, what should Van do? What do you think he should do? So I really like this site a lot. And then another activity for students when you have a group is to do sentence completion. And, this is a great way for you to find out a little bit about your students and for them to find out about one another. I don't know if we have, what time is it here? Okay. So real quick, all right, we'll just go around. Jane, number 1, on a typical day, I
take a walk.
Okay, good. Marilyn, number 2. Marilyn, are you there? Maureen?
Okay, my favorite hobby is gardening.
Great. Roseanne, number 3.
My favorite food is an Italian food called arancini.
Okay. Anna, number 4.
My dream job is being a teacher.
Ah, nice. Kimberly, number 5.
I want to travel to Ireland.
Okay. And we would go around until all the students had answered most of the questions. So it's just a nice way for them to get to know about one another, and then it's sort of an introduction to writing as well.
Yeah, that's nice.
If you and the other thing I should say about this is you could structure it according to your topic, right? I mean, this is a lot of general stuff, but maybe we could make all the sentences, on a typical day at work, my favorite thing about work is, my dream job is, that kind of thing. So again, tied in with your general topic. Some other things that you can do, lower level students, modeled writing. This is where you write a paragraph or 2 about a topic, and then your students can follow the model to compose their own story. Some students will basically copy what you wrote and kind of insert their own information in, but some students will use the model as a guide and then expand a little bit to write something more original. Then after the students write their story, you would have them read them to the class. So this is also good practice and an opportunity to work a little bit on pronunciation. If your students are higher level, we suggest journal writing. These sort of dollar journals or whatever. And each week, you and your students would choose a topic, and then they can write a paragraph or a couple of paragraphs, a page, whatever. And then they would bring their journals into class, and you would have them read their stories. And that's always really interesting to hear the students, thoughts and ideas. Some of the topics that you might use: my country, the best day of my life, my dream job, life in America, things like that. Always very popular. Okay, I feel like I went speeding through that, but we have a little bit of time. Do you have some? I hope that gives you some ideas for things to do with your group. Did people have some questions that they want to ask about anything that we talked about?
That last site was LCivics.
elcivics.com. I actually think when you see the PowerPoint that the website is on the Shall I put it? I'll put it in the chat box.
Yeah, I see it now. I see it. Thank you.
Barbara, don't you have a list of a bunch of different ESL websites on the New Jersey, literacynewjersey.org website?
Thank you, Oriel. Yes, we do.
I thought so.
There's a lot of really good information on the Literacy New Jersey website. Different curriculum for low-level students, for conversation curriculum for higher-level students. So I would definitely recommend that you.
If you go to literacynewjersey.org, there's a tab for resources, and there's lots of good stuff there for tutors.
There you go.
Oh,
Great
wow.
pitch. Thank you.
Yeah, that's
Barbara, I just wanted to mention, talking about the dialogues, one of my favorite dialogues to do, I like to do role plays, like going to the pharmacy. So I'll have a student be the patient and they have to come and drop off their prescription. And then I'll tell them that it won't be ready until tomorrow. And then they have to come back and then they have to ask for their medicine. And then I'll usually ask them to, how do you spell your last name? What's your address? Make sure they know all that information, especially with the beginners. Sometimes they mix up the vowels, the A, the E, I, O, and U. So make sure they know how to spell their last name and useful things like that. And another one I like to do is like a 911 call in case they have a problem at their house, asking for either a policeman, fireman, or emergency, and make sure they know how to spell their address. And if they take too long, I say, hey, I'm sorry, your house just burnt down. So I just want to emphasize to them that it's important that they know how to spell their last name, especially the first name and their address. And I do those kind of role plays, pharmacy and 911 calls. And it's very helpful, I think. So.
Good idea. Good information, Oriel. Spoken like a true experienced group tutor.
Barbara, throughout the class, you were mentioning, you said in your training, or a couple times you mentioned training. Is there specific tutor training that people can take? Can you speak a little bit more about that? Because I'm not aware of that.
Okay. What program are you affiliated with?
With the Morris Literacy Volunteers, Morris County.
Okay. Yes. So Morris County has a little different type of training policy, I guess. You don't really have to, but Literacy New Jersey offers a 15-hour training, but it's to, obviously to be trained to work for or to help out Literacy New Jersey. And I know the Morris County program is affiliated, but not actually a part. But you should talk to Debbie Leone about it. That it would be helpful for tutors in Morris County to have more training.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you.
Barbara, one other thing that I spoke to Barbara Bagger about this also. I know sometimes that brand new tutors kind of like to sit in with the teacher sometimes to see how to do the lesson. And I've done that with a couple of new tutors. I teach a class on Saturday mornings from 10 to 11:30. So if anybody who's really new kind of wants to see how I run my class, they could let me know and I could send them an invite to join my Zoom meeting and they could watch me do the class. And if that would make them feel more comfortable, I'm happy to do that. Just set it up in advance and then I can let them sit in on my class if they want to watch.
Thank
you.
I have a question. What level of students do you teach?
Well, at the beginning of the year, they were beginners. I would say they're a little bit higher now.
Good for you.
Well, what would you say? Intermediate? I mean,
Well, I would say high beginners.
High beginners.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
We're going to stick around a little longer for some more questions, but I also just want to let you all know now that we're coming towards the end that there is an evaluation form we'd love for everyone to just fill out while they're still on the call. And for the first two fields, the name of workshop and name of presenter, feel free to just copy and paste. This feedback is really, really helpful to us, but also continue to ask questions and share advice.
Where do we find the feedback?
The evaluation form was just pasted into the chat.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I have some feedback on the eval form. You are the first host or co-host, whatever you are there, Maria, who put the name of the workshop and the name of the presenter in, so I didn't have to scramble to go look it up.
Yeah, that's
Or
really
go
helpful.
back to my calendar or who about to figure out what was the name. So thank you for doing that.
Of course. I've been there before where you're trying to remember, and then on the back end of it when you're trying to figure out what people were responding to. So
Yeah.
happy to do that.
So if you could share that with the other tech support people for hosting, that would be excellent.
You got it.
Any other general questions about things?
I didn't realize that any of the programs didn't have tutor training. Our program requires tutor training before somebody can tutor. I didn't know that there was anybody who didn't do that.
Well, it's not that Morris doesn't have a training, but it's a more modified version. Well, I would just like to say thank you to you all for coming tonight. You were a great,
Thank you.
great group
Thank you.
and had very good responses and answers to things and ideas for things. So
Thank you, Barbara.
I can imagine that you're all good tutors.
Well, you were a great presenter.
Very informative.
Thank you. Appreciate
I
the
hope so.
information.
It was great. It's been very relevant and directly useful for the classes, which is so helpful. So thank you.
You're welcome. I do think it's important to have practical information and activities and, you know, ways to engage the students. And I do think it's important to make sure that you're engaging your students and drawing them out and not, you know, not doing as much talking as I did tonight, right? That's not the way that you want to be in your class. The idea is really to get your students talking and you kind of, you know, just sort of sitting back and, as we said, facilitating. So that's, you know, I hope that's one of the takeaways from.
And I realize that most of our students are very much more proficient at computers than I certainly am. And when I got back in teaching again, I was amazed at how much is online. If for somebody who just, you know, if you want to learn how to play the piano, how do you play the violin, how do you speak better English, all those different websites, it's unbelievable. There's so much out there that they can pick up, that once they get at a certain level, you know, look on your own, look at what you can find on your own, and they can go to it because they're, you know, they've done this before, they're computer savvy, so it's easier for them to find out.
You know, I don't know. I think that's true for some of the students, but I have students for whom that's not true at all.
Yeah.
You know, I have tutors who don't know how to use the internet, and I have students who don't have access to, which has been very difficult during COVID.
Yeah, access is a big thing.
It runs the gamut. And I would say there is so much information out there. The tough thing is finding the information that is most relevant to your students and presenting it in a way and with enough practice that they really learn it. You know, it's not about learning 1,000 things or becoming familiar with 1,000 things. It's about really learning, you know, 50 things, but really well, learning it really well. So
there's a lot of good YouTube videos also on almost every topic ESL. So if your students are having trouble with present perfect, that you can just Google, you know, ESL present perfect or ESL past tense. And there's tons of videos and you could just look through, find a couple of easy ones, copy the links, and then share them in your chat. Or I send them in an email or put them in WhatsApp for my students to watch. Plus it gives them something to do during the week so they get extra practice.
Yeah. I know for some students, for some of our students, they have children who are taking classes online. And so they may just have one computer in the whole house for 2 or 3 children. So they're limited when they can actually take classes. You know, they have to share.
Yeah, yeah. It's very common to have students sitting down, in the middle of class and then kids running around the place and people like disappearing off the screen and coming back because they have to take care of their kids. But, that's all part of the situation right now. So
That's
anyway,
one of the
thank
things
you.
we had to accommodate. Good.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's
No,
one of
just
the
gonna
things you
say
have to.
that was one of the things we had to accommodate because my classes were in the morning when kids were in school. And we had to switch to afternoons after they were done with the computers. And everyone's much tireder at 4 o'clock in the afternoon than at 10 o'clock in the morning when we used to meet in person. And you have to sort of account for that level of focus also. A lot of things changed. Yeah.
Well, we hope maybe September.
Yeah.
So we'll be back to the
Yeah.
libraries again. I don't know. We'll see.
Hopefully.
Thank you very much.
That'd be great.
Okay, well,
Thank
thank
you.
you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Barbara.